What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and welcome to episode 3 of Poor Man's PvP. This is a no-frills PvP series where I take weapons you can get every day for free and use them to beat top-level opponents. First things first, I want to show you my setup. On my agent, I'm using the Generalist and Powered Armor. This, of course, was our 2-year anniversary gift, and I've equipped it with the Inspiring and Powered ISO 8. Next, I'm using the Red Hulk, and he is a tactician, so I'm able to use Quick and Powered ISO 8. This grants snappy service, making his bulwark a quick action. I've also given him Sympathetic and Powered ISO 8, which grants generosity. This will heal him when you do use bulwark, and if you really need to, you can use it twice in one turn. Next, I am going to be using another PvP character, and I am sorry that I'm using 2 on one team, but you'll see why once I show you the setup. At least they're not any limited edition characters or any costumes that expired. So that's part of the reason why I went with Cable as the other team up. I'm using Explosive and Powered ISO 8 and also Distant on him. However, the main reason I'm using Cable is because of his ability Body Slide and an augmented ISO. But I'll show you exactly what I mean whenever we're fighting in PvP. My agent setup is using the Staff of Asclepios. It is a challenge mode weapon which drops in Season 2, Chapter 4, Mission 4. It provides quite a bit of initial healing, and then heals each turn. Also, by the way, if you use this with Captain Marvel's Rally, you can use it as a quick action. Our second item is the Gamma Radiation Emitter. This is also a challenge mode weapon which drops in Season 2, Chapter 4, Mission 2. This is what the team is built around, so you probably can see it coming together now. Red Hulk's Gamma Bomb applies radiation exposure, and his Bunker Buster exploits radiation. But where does Cable fit into all this? Well, trust me, you're going to find out. There's a really good reason that he's on this team. Next on my agent's setup is the Gilded Semi-Auto Gun. You get this from completing all of the challenge mode versions of Chapter 4 missions. This weapon does pretty decent damage. It has high crits, and applies lock-on and pinpoint target. But honestly, you don't need this, so if you haven't gotten it, don't worry about it. I don't think I used it a single time. Basically, any high damage weapon will do. And lastly, I'm using Sudden Support once again. But honestly, the only reason I'm using this is because there aren't that many free or easy to get good quick action items. That's definitely an area I think they need to improve on. But also, I think it may come down to my bad luck, and also I really need to farm a few more items. But anyways, that's going to be it for this setup, and now let's go ahead and get right into the battles. For our first one, we're going to be facing a pretty popular team, and it's also one of the most vicious defensive teams. Quicksilver of course gets to go first, and he starts out with a tag team. Oh, and by the way, I still don't have Cable's E-ISO, so that's why I'm not using it. I also haven't been able to win Red Hulk's augmented ISO yet either. Of course, both of those ISOs would come in pretty handy with this team. If you have them, you'll definitely want to use them. We did get pretty lucky here, and Red Hulk's going to get our first turn. I'll start out by using Bulwark as a quick action, and that will heal him back to full health. Next, I'm going to single target attack Havoc, but first I have to check if there's a protector, and there isn't. So we'll start with a Searing Smash, and then I'll go ahead and use a Gamma Bomb. By the way, at this point, Red Hulk is kind of expendable. I don't want him to die, but if Havoc's going to one-shot someone, I'm glad it's going to be Red Hulk. I will say this, because of side effects, you do have a good chance to exhaust Havoc. That would mean if he uses Channel Energy, and he is exhausted, his turn would end. Also, I should mention, I use the Aiming Augmented ISO 8, which applies lock-on to Gamma Bomb. So I've really set up my game plan pretty well right here. Of course, we didn't exhaust Havoc, so he does take Red Hulk out in the first round. All is not lost though, trust me. The Gamma Radiation Emitter applies radiation exposure, and it applies gamma exposure. This states that nearby energy attacks may apply radiation exposure. Now watch what happens when we use this. We're not going to use the staff yet because we're not that hurt, and we do want to set up the gamma exposure first. The same goes for the Gilded Semi-Auto Gun. We most likely want to use that when we have sudden support available. Once we use the gamma radiation emitter, you'll notice that it applies 2 times radiation exposure, and it would be nice to have Red Hulk around to exploit it, but unfortunately you saw what happened to him. Next, their agent's most likely going to use the Blackest Void. I honestly believe that Disoriented is really overpowered right now, but it won't even affect this team. At least not very much, because we do have a bunch of AoE attacks. Okay, that's exactly what they do, but it's not going to alter our plans at all. I'm going to start by using Cable's Temporal Shift, and in this instance, I'm going to use it on himself. Of course, you can use this ability however you see fit. You could give your agent a turn and heal yourself, or if Red Hulk's around, you could give him an early turn, and possibly use that Bulwark. Cable's great for a number of things, but the main reason I'm using him on this team is because of this. There is an augmented ISO called the Ionizing Augmented ISO 8. What this does is it makes the equipped energy attack apply radiation exposure. Cable's Body Slide is a perfect example of this. It's an AoE energy attack, so it's going to hit every one of the enemies, it's going to apply radiation exposure, and because of gamma exposure, it's going to apply it times 2. So this augmented ISO, especially on an AoE energy attack, is really all you need with a gamma radiation emitter, at least for a pretty solid start to a team-up. I think Red Hulk is a really good third character, but really you could use anyone else if you wanted. I also should note that Havoc's Plasma Spheres is also an AoE energy attack, but I didn't want to use him because he's even more expensive, being a past Spec Ops character and all, and also there's plenty of him going around. I also didn't use Iron Patriot because it was an alternate limited costume, and to be honest, on him it's overkill anyway, because he applies a ton of radiation exposure by himself. Other candidates include the MK42 armor for Iron Man. His high energy laser is an AoE energy attack. Graviton Well for Magneto is another one. And then an interesting character would be Scarlet Witch and her Hex Spheres. And the last AoE energy attacker I will mention is Vision. But there's plenty of other energy attackers and people that would be pretty decent candidates for this team-up. As we're coming to the end of this one, you see how that early finish of Red Hulk really didn't help out the enemies. In fact, our remaining characters finish at full health. Now as we move into the second battle, you'll see what happens when we have a slightly different turn order. Of course, the only team-up we ended up facing practically the entire time was Havoc and Quicksilver. But hey, if you can beat the most popular team, then you're already doing pretty good in PvP. Really, that's all you can do is build for the popular team. You can't really build for the minority. In this matchup, my agent goes first, and trust me, that works quite well for us. We're going to use the gamma radiation emitter right away. Alternatively, if Cable goes first, he can just give someone a turn with Temporal Shift. So you can see how turn order really doesn't affect this team. Now that the opposing team is completely set up, all we have to do is wait and see what their agent does. Certainly the Mystic or the Skrull could slow this concept down, but it's still a pretty solid team. Solid enough that they should be able to make it to the second round, and then you should be able to still pull it off. Oh, and this time with Cable's turn, I'm going to use Temporal Shift on the Red Hulk. Now that it's going to be his turn, I'll first use Bulwark. This heals him for a little over 5,000 because of our Empowered ISO 8. He will also protect against a Plasma Wave if that's what Havoc ends up doing. Next I'm going to single target attack Havoc, and I'm going to use a Bunker Buster. This move exploits radiation, and he does happen to have 2 stacks. We get a 30k non-crit, and that's certainly not bad. Next it's time for our Gamma Bomb. This is going to apply another radiation exposure, as well as a number of debuffs, including Lock-On. And that is once again because of the aiming augmented ISO 8. Lock-On causes characters to take 25% additional damage from ranged attacks. This perfectly sets up Cable, who has the next attack. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize it does cost 5 gold. But that's really affordable, and anyways, you don't necessarily need it. It does, however, provide an additional boost to Cable, and has some nice synergy. Now with Red Hulk's actual turn, we're going to finish Quicksilver because he does have the next two actions. Then with my agent, I'll go ahead and show you the staff in use once again. This really does have quite a powerful heal. It's going to take our team back to almost full health. Then it also restores health over time for 2 rounds. Just look at all that radiation damage on their agent. Oh, and interestingly enough, he's going to use the fire starter. Apparently this was a gold sale item, it was a quick action, and it has fire absorption. So it reduces damage from fire and energy attacks by 50%. That's not a bad little gadget to have right now. Unfortunately, of course I don't have it. He also has the barrel guard, so that means he will come back to life once. For his first death, I believe we'll use Cable's Ascani Arts. This way we'll place flanked on him, and whatever happens, we'll get a follow-up attack. So just in case we miss with the first one, maybe because of reality hacking. Sadly, that removed all the radiation exposure, so we're not going to do quite as much damage with the Bunker Buster. Still, it should do plenty enough to win this battle. So let's go ahead and use that ability. And it does do 21k, and that's going to be a victory. Now for the end of the video, I want to go ahead and show you what I might change to this setup if I did include limited items. I would keep the gamma radiation emitter, that way I keep the essence of the team. But I would add one of the greatest quick action items that there is. Don't get me wrong, there are pretty good free ones, like the sudden support or the power of 4. But after going through a few of them, you quickly run out of options. And this is where I think they need to add more to the game. Then we're using the cube, and that's because of reality hacking, as well as disoriented, and I think both of those procs are out of control. The staff was pretty good, but the cube also heals, so it's really hard to beat. And lastly, you could use a number of items, such as the Warbringer Axe, or maybe even the Mystic. The list really could go on for quite a while, but I'm going with the Hand of Apocalypse, and that's because of the fact that there are so many teams that have resurrection effects. So I would recommend this weapon just because of that fact alone, let alone the damage that it can do, and the fact that it places off balance. But anyways, that's the fancy version for this setup, and if you do want to see it in PvP, I can make an additional video. In fact, I think I may just start doing that from now on. Basically, I'll include a companion video, and then I'll try to post it along with this series. It doesn't need to be a series in itself, it's just basically going to show what I might do differently. However, some weapon setups I might not even want to change. Oftentimes, it may just include another quick action item, or something like an armor change. But anyways, let me know what you think about that. Just go ahead and leave a comment in the section below. And please leave a like, and also subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, good luck, and take care.